Hello, 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 and welcome back to In Case You Missed It. Today, let's talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville Reunion Part 2. So, this episode starts off with Kiki and Tisha going back and forth. Tisha was accusing Kiki and Amin of infidelity. Carlos goes to Kiki to allow her to defend herself, and Kiki owns it. She like, yes, there's been infidelity on both ends in my marriage, but we overcame that. Tisha then accuses Kiki of paying for Amin to go on a date with another woman. Now, this was a little funny because everybody was shocked, like, what? Kiki, you paid for him to go with another woman? Kiki was like, what happened was he asked me for some money, and then later on, I went out to eat, and he was basically on a date with another woman. And so Martell was like, oh, Tisha, I'm thinking she set it up and paid for it. And Mel was like, right, Tisha. I'm thinking, you know what I'm saying? She set it up. And this the kind of stuff right here, Tisha, where everybody look at you like you are dumb. Like, sorry to say, but why would you articulate that like that, knowing doggone well that that wasn't the case the way it came out of your mouth? So I don't even know why she did that. But anyway, moving on. Tisha and Marceau, of course, are accusing Kiki of still being on drugs. They question the drug test with Melody, and Melody went on ahead and confirmed that she was the one who went in the bathroom with Kiki. Kiki said it was male and production. And Melody also confirmed that Kiki didn't even know that she was going to be taking the test. So it was no way for her to even have some fake pee or cheat on this test or anything like that. But Marceau was just adamant that something was wrong with the test or it was some fake pee. That's why we saw on Kiki's Instagram live one day she went to her treatment center and she got some paperwork, and it was her drug test results for like the last 6 months. And basically she was doing that to prove that whenever they randomly drug tested her in the last 6 months, she passed all of the tests. The only thing that was in her system was the methadone. People were saying that they thought she should have had that at the reunion. But I feel like Kiki gonna know next year. This is only her second reunion. So I feel like, now she'll know whatever's going on in the season, she need to come with the receipts. She got that after the fact, basically, after they had already filmed the reunion. Carlos kept asking Kiki, was she sober? Has she been sober? When has she done the last time she's done drugs? And Kiki made it very clear she's never done hard drugs. The only thing she's ever done was the Percocets. And she said it's been years since she's done them. She even willingly on her own said she'll take a drug test today. And she was saying it to Carlos because basically Carlos King is her boss. And then you got Marceau over here trolling her like, yeah, can you bet on that? I want to see you take a drug test today and this, that, and this. Marceau was being just the little troll that he is, but I don't know. That's why, honestly, to me, Marceau is good TV. I don't really care for the Scots, but as far as TV goes, I do like Marceau. Another thing that I thought was interesting, it was one time when they was kind of going back and forth. Tisha got a little upset and she looked at him and he was like, babe, just try to ignore her. So to me, that is very clear. Like Kiki had mentioned during the season that she knew that Marceau and Tisha had talked beforehand about ignoring Kiki at the barbecue. And to me, that just confirmed it because he literally told Tisha, just try to ignore her. And Tisha ended up just turning around, looking at Carlos and being quiet and not saying nothing else to Kiki. So it's very clear to me that the Scots are trying to ice Kiki out. They don't want her on the show. And, they a little foursome and they going to try their best to ice her out. Then it go to commercial. After that, the Fletchers and the Whitlows join the stage. Chris and Carlos get up and dance because Carlos was talking about Chris and how he be dancing on his Instagram. Then Carlos starts asking Martell about Sheree. Martell start denying that him and Sheree was dating. He's saying that they was friends and blah, 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 blah. The more and more they was asking questions, then he finally admitted like, oh yeah, we were dating. They were asking questions about him and Marceau sitting down with Tiffany, and they flashed back to that whole scene. Big Lou did say that once he saw the scene, it wasn't as bad as he thought it was, like what Tiffany said. Why? Because Tiffany was being a Karen. I'm sorry, she was. But Lou did stand on the fact that he felt like two men shouldn't sit down with his wife without him. And I mean, I do agree with that. But Martell was like, me and her had a meeting set up. We was doing a meeting. And Marceau was like, I wasn't in there. I was just responding or something, Marceau said. But anyway, they silly. So then they start asking questions about Marceau calling Tiffany a Karen. And I don't know, it's kind of funny because Marceau was like trying to explain it. Like, basically, it's not because you white, you was like really being a Karen. And then Carlos was like, can a black woman be a Karen? And he said a black woman that's half white, and everybody fell out laughing because it was just kind of funny how he said it and the facial expression that he was making. But I'm sorry, Tiffany, from what we saw from you, you are definitely a Karen. So you just got to own that one. Then Carlos got back to Martell and Sheree. And he said that Sheree mentioned on her show she stopped dating him because all of the negative press he was getting was coming her way. And then Martell kind of act clueless. He was like, oh, really? She said that? Oh, I never heard that. Blah, blah, blah. Carlos then asked Martell, is it hard for you to date women because you still have feelings for your ex-wife? Martell like, what? Who said that? That like trying to act dumb. Carlos like, the cameras have shown us that you have mentioned that to other people. That's when Nell jumps in and she like, yeah, you said that to me. You've even said that recently. And Mel like, yeah, I hear that all the time as well. Nell said that that's what Martell told her. If he could change it, go back and change everything, he would, just so he could still be with Mel and have their family together. Then Carlos goes on to ask him about the name change ceremony, and Martell was giving his feelings on it, and he was just saying he didn't understand why Mel did it because it was just up and out the blue. He mentioned that he would understand her changing her name if she was getting remarried or something like that, but he just didn't understand basically why she changed her name. And he was kind of acting like it was not a big deal, but Mel and Nell were kind of like alluding to the fact that it was a big deal. Because he had talked to them on camera and off camera, separately about Mel changing her name. And Carlos' question was, do you feel like that was like the nail in the coffin? And in reality, I do feel like some way deep down in Martell's heart, that was the nail in the coffin for him. Like, dang, she straight changed her name. She don't want no more ties with me. And it's like, no, she don't want no more ties with you and everything that is going on with you. Because every time your name pop up, that's her last name. So, I mean, most of us 1,000% understand why she changed her name and 1,000% support her on that. I know I do for sure. Carlos asked Martell if he feel like if he was honest and told the world that he was still in love with Melody, do he feel like Melody would take it and run with it or use it against him? Then Marceau chimes in and say, or do you think he'll get in trouble with your wife? And that's when everybody like, what? Huh? And they'll like, what wife? Who he married to? And this, and this. I just gotta say, I love me some Nell Fletcher. I love the Fletchers. Then Carlos goes on and asks Martell, like, are you in a relationship with your child's mother? And he says no. Of course he gonna say no. He has always denied coleslaw. And for whatever reason, she just, that don't bother her. I mean, whoo, child, it's been almost 10 years. This man still getting on national TV, denying you and disrespecting you. Hey, but if that's what you want, then that's what you want. When Martell denies being in a relationship with Coleslaw, Marceau then says, well, do she think y'all in a relationship? And everybody just like, right, because that's what it seemed like. She think that y'all up here in a relationship. Melody was like right in agreement with Marceau because she believes that they're in a relationship. Carlos King asked her why, and she was like, because every time my children are with him, she's there almost every day. Carlos is like, well, do that hurt you? And she like, no, it don't hurt me, but basically I don't like it, because who would like it? And then she goes on to explain the reason why she don't like it. It's not like Martell is dating a new woman. Like he met Sheree and started dating Sheree. He's dating the person that actively, willfully wanted to, tried for years to come in between their family, tear their family apart. Coleslaw wanted their family to be destroyed because she wanted Mel's spot. So Mel was trying to explain like she's DM'd me, she said all kind of nasty stuff about me. So why would I want her around my children? Well, of course, while Melody is talking, Martell jumps in, cuts Melody off. He starts gaslighting for all those people who don't think he's a narcissist. This is what narcissists do. While Melody's talking about one thing, he jumps in and starts bringing up babysitters. Sir, we are not talking about babysitters right now. We're talking about your mistress being around your children every time they're with you. That's the topic at hand. Stick to the topic. He can't do that. Why? Because he's a narcissist. So when he get upset when Melody's telling some kind of truth, then he wants to change the conversation. But changing the conversation just didn't go in his favor, because then he wants to start talking about Melody and these it went from 20 babysitters, or 22 is what he was saying years ago. Now it's all of a sudden 11 babysitters. And then Melody was like, I've never had my children spend the night with 11 different people ever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Stop lying. So they start going back and forth. And then Mel mentions that Martell said in court that him and Sheree's relationship was a business deal. And Martell was like, what? Stop lying. He got so mad. This was kind of funny. I'm sorry. And she was like, yeah, my lawyer asked you if you was in a relationship with Sheree, and you said it's business. Martell stands up, storms off the stage like a 2-year-old, going to his room. And then he comes back to the stage with this paperwork. And he trying to give it to Melody, talking about, look at it. She like, nah, you find it. You know what I'm saying? This is your paperwork. Then he give it to Carlos, and Melody like, that's not the transcript from the court. She was like, that's the paperwork you've been sending to all these bloggers. That's not everything. And see, another thing with a narcissist, I don't believe for 1 second that the paperwork that Martell was sending to the bloggers was everything anyway. I never thought that, because I feel like he would have only sent stuff to try to make Melody look bad, and he would have omitted some stuff when it had to do with him. So he didn't have the full transcripts and all of that. He just didn't have it. He gave the papers to Carlos. Carlos was kind of acting like he was looking through them, but I don't really think he did. Mel also mentions that was a disgrace to her for him to send those papers to the bloggers, because it was discussing their children and their court case. And we know one of them was specifically what happened with her son Tank. Like, that's something that she never discussed publicly. She didn't want that to be on the blogs, like what he had to go in court and say, like what his father actually did to him. So she did say that was a disgrace to her. Martell sitting there festering, getting upset. This is the narcissistic rage. And he just yelled out, liar! You are such a liar! You should just see his face, man. He said it with everything in his being. Like, Martell, You doing the most. All because she said you said yo and Sheree's relationship was business. You getting this upset? Mm-mm. It's not that deep, sir. So then when Carlos King, and I thought this was very interesting, when Carlos King saw how angry Martell was getting, he was like, no, 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 that's it. We're not talking about it no more. Let's be done with this. Then he had to stand up and stand over Martell and kind of point at Martell as if this was a father talking to his little 2-year-old son. And Carlos said to Martell, he was like, listen to me. You need to respect me. Something like that. And then Martell was just like, okay, all right, you right. And then Carlos went and sat back down. And I was just like, that was very interesting. And so then Melody proceeds to say, see, this is how toxic it was in our house. That's why I had to get out of that house. And Martell like, no, it wasn't this toxic. It wasn't this toxic. And she was like, yes, it was. That's why I had to beat your ass that one time. And everybody was like, like everybody mouth dropped wide open, like, and they like, Mel, what? And she like, yep, sure did. And I was cracking up like, this Melody is crazy in a good way. It was so funny, but sometimes, hey, if y'all ain't ever dealt with a narcissist, you don't understand. They take you there. They literally take you there. Just like when Carlos, had mentioned last week, Melody throwing that glass on Martell. Martell kept provoking her. That was another example of gaslighting years ago. He kept repeating something, taunting her until he got a reaction out of her. So, yeah, I could see her reacting to some bullcrap he was saying and had to knock him upside his head a couple times while they was married. They started talking to Tiffany about her having postpartum depression and deciding to leave the show. I just want to say I wish the Whitlows well. Postpartum depression is very real. I'm glad she realized it and made the decision to step away for the betterment of herself, her family, and most importantly, baby Ace. Because, he an infant and all children need their mothers, and especially infants, because they can't do anything for themselves. I would have to say, it was good to see them on there as a family. I personally will not miss the Whitlows. I didn't like the role Tiffany was playing on the show. She was like always bringing up other people's stuff, but didn't really talk about her own stuff that much. And then when it was a time in her life that was really, really hard that she could have been talking about, she opted to leave the show, which I'm not criticizing her. I understand why she left the show, but that was the opportunity finally to really talk about something serious that was going on in her life. So, her just carrying everybody else's tea and bones. I personally won't miss her, but I do 1,000% wish them well. It returned from break with Miss Betty and Junior on the stage. I don't know why Junior was there, but Carlos had him stand up. I did like the suit that he had on. It was different. It had fringes down the side. I was like, okay, Junior. But I don't think he said a word. Well, at least on this episode, he didn't. Maybe next episode, he might say something. But, of course, they start talking about Betty not liking Melody's tweets and giving her reason that she was upset with Melody about a tweet that she posted, and then the fans was thinking that she was talking about Stormy, and then Stormy kind of chimed in and said, they were directly commenting under your tweet and you never went back and said something. Mel was like, she didn't necessarily see it, and they was like, you saw it. I'm like, and she was like, I don't see everything. And Betty was like, you never went back and read all the comments under your tweet. Now, she might not have, because sometimes Melody be live tweeting, but she could have stuff going on in her house. We've seen Mel live tweeting, and then she had a party at her house. All of her family was over. We've seen that before. So, I don't know. I'm not going to necessarily say that she for sure saw everything. And then Betty was also talking about Melody is basically in the Facebook groups. And so she see what's being said in the Facebook groups. Again, I don't believe Melody sees everything in the Facebook groups. She see a lot, but do she see every single thing? No, I don't think so. And then when she came back to correct it, basically she didn't correct it how they wanted her to. Melody was like, I said I had the conversation with the person that it needed to be had with, or something like that. And one of her, I don't know if she did a message. I don't know how Melody communicated that, but Betty was like, you never said, it wasn't Stormy and da 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 da. So basically, Mel correcting it in her way once she found out about it, it wasn't good enough for Betty. So Melody and Betty gets to going back and forth, basically. They arguing back and forth. Melody is telling her to mind her own business. You got issues with your family, your sister in particular. You're old enough to be my mother. I'm not trying to argue with you, old lady, basically is what Melody was saying. And then Betty starts saying, you've been divorced from this man for 3 years and you still arguing with him. Mind your own business. And it's like, Betty, she is over here minding her business. You're saying something to her. You're starting an issue with her. She didn't start nothing with you. I'm sorry, Miss Betty, you looking kind of off on that one. But yeah, it was just crazy. So in the midst of them kind of going back and forth, Stormy is like, Mama, stop, calm down. Then she started calling her by name. She like, Betty, please stop. But at this time, Stormy talking, Mel talking, Betty talking, and they can't hear each other. You know what I'm saying? So and even Carlos King was trying to chime in like, wait a minute, hold up, da-da-da, let's stop. So eventually Betty said something and Melody was like, huh, I can't hear you. And Betty was like, oh, you heard me. She was like, I really didn't repeat what you said. Betty like, nah, I ain't gonna repeat it. And then she making this face and growing up. I don't know. Betty faces be weird. And then she leaning all back, laughing. And Mel was like, cause she's a demon. And that's kind of how the episode ended. They ended up showing, previews for the third part of the reunion. And I don't know. I will for one say I am 1,000% tired of people mamas coming on the show to come for Melody. I am 1,000% tired of y'all being mad at her because of her fans. She cannot control people. One of the things that Stormy mentioned was her fans was calling stores trying to get them to remove Stormy products. How in the heck was Melody supposed to know that somebody was doing that? And Melody said, I didn't know that. Why didn't you call me and tell me? And Stormy was just like, I ain't had your number. But it's just like, come on now. I mean, to me, I'm going to just say this. I understand people got their own interpretation of whatever Melody said. But when I saw what was happening, Destiny had this recording. Me personally, I never thought that Mel was talking about Stormy. Some other people did, but I didn't think that. I don't feel like Mel implied that either. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. It was just kind of weird. Carlos King, if you ever see this and hear this, I am tired. We are tired of these women that are old enough to be Melody's age coming from her. Because as soon as she pop off and, go off on one of them, it's going to be very disrespectful. Just how Stormy went off on a blogger that was old enough to be her, grandmother. Ain't nobody trying to argue with old ladies. Stop putting her in this position. I don't like that the production team and Carlos, I don't even like that y'all doing that. That's not even cool. But anyway, that's my take on this reunion. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll keep you up to date just in case you missed it.